Well, let me tell you a story real quick. Now, in the Bible, in the book of Luke, in the New Testament, verse 28 in chapter 14, verse 28, Jesus said, "Who would ever consider, or who would ever begin to build a tower without considering the cost?" Well, let me just tell you about somebody that might do something so silly. Now, this is a fire tower right here. They're all over the state of Missouri, and other states have them. Back in the early 1900s, 1920s, 30s, 40s, right in there, that's why people would go up to look for fires, because they didn't have other ways to detect fires in the area. So they would climb up there. These guys would climb up there, stay up there in these towers, these little houses up there, for hours and hours just watching for fires. I've always been fascinated with these fire towers. I have always thought they're the coolest thing. I don't know why. We used to climb them as kids and go up there and just hang out. And just thought it was so cool. And my wife knew I loved them. My wife knew I was fascinated with them. And one day we're at my mother-in-law's house, and I'm in the kitchen. I'll never forget. I was in the kitchen, and the news was on, the local news, and my wife and my family's in there watching the local news. And my wife hollers at me and says, "Mark, get in here." She said, "They're selling a fire tower." I said, "What?" So I ran in there in the living room, and I got to watching. The news was talking about one of these fire towers that the Missouri Department of Conservation had, and they were selling it. They were taking bids on it, sealed bids. So I'm thinking, man, I want that. I'd love to own one of those fire towers. So I watched the news, and it said where to send your bid to, and I wrote down the address and all that. And so later, about the next day in my office, I'm sitting there thinking, man, I was how much do I bid on a fire tower? How much do you bid? So I'm thinking, okay, I'll just throw some number. I said $1,501. And I thought, just try it. So I sent it off. Kind of forgot about it. Month went by or so like that, and didn't think nothing else about it. Got a phone call one day from the Missouri Department of Conservation, and the man on the other end says, "Mr. Cross?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You are the proud owner of a fire tower." I about lost it. I couldn't believe it. I said, "You got to be, nope, you own this fire tower. You got I think it's 60 days to tear that thing down and take it home with you." Now, this fire tower looked just like this one, except it's a little bit bigger. This is a 90-footer right here, and the one I bought was 120 feet. And it was south of Joplin, Missouri, about 30 miles, which is about 80, 90 miles from where I live. So me and my brother-in-law and my wife and my sister, and we all jumped in a vehicle. I said, "Let's go look at this fire tower I bought." So we drove down there, drove up this fire tower. I couldn't believe how massive this thing was. The beams on it were like a foot and a half wide. It was just huge. And I tell you what I had in my mind. I had visions that we could go down there with some crescent wrenches, some socket wrenches, and a hammer, and we could tear this fire tower down, put it on a trailer, bring it home. That was definitely not going to be the case. Once I saw it, I knew I was in trouble. And so everybody jumped out of the car and would look at that fire tower climbing up. And I sit in the car. I was sick in my stomach. I just sit there. I couldn't even get out of the car. And finally, I got out of the car, went and looked at it, and this thing was huge. And I'm thinking, there's no way we're going to tear this down by hand like I thought we would be able to do. So I went back home, and I got doing some research. I thought, oh, let's find out what this is going to cost me. So I called a place in Joplin that had a crane, because I knew it was going to take a huge crane to help get this house off the top and the other parts down. $10,000 what it would have cost me to have that crane do it. Another $3,000 or $4,000 to have it hauled to my house. Another $10,000 to have it put up in my yard. We're talking close to $30,000 by the time this was going to be done. And I'm just telling you, I was sick, because I thought the Conservation Department was going to eat my lunch, because I had 60 days to tear this thing down. I'm already 3 weeks into it, and there's no way I'm going to get this thing. There's no way I can afford to have this tower tore down and brought home. There's no way. And so I was dreading it. I knew I had to call the Conservation Department and tell them, "I'm sorry, I won the bid on this fire tower, but there's just no way I can afford it. I can't take it." So I did call them, and I said, "Listen, here's the story." I told them what happened. I told them about this fire tower. I told them it's going to cost me a ton of money. And I said, "I know I lose my $1,501, but I said there's no way that I'm going to be able to purchase or to get this tower and bring it home." The guy was very nice. He said, "We understand, not a problem." So I hung up, and I felt better about it, because they were nice about it. So I'm thinking, I lost $1,501, but I didn't care. I was just glad to be out from under that thing, okay? I was relieved. And I knew I lost $1,500, but I could live with that. I just couldn't live with the fact that they would have just said, "Well, sorry, you're going to have to tear it down. We're going to charge you, or we're going to fine you." I know what they were going to do, but anyways, everything was good. Then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a phone call. And I could tell it was the Missouri Department of Conservation again. And this time I was sick in my stomach. I thought, what now? What? Have they changed their mind? They're going to sue me or something? So I answered the phone, the same guy. He said, Mr. Cross, yes. He said, I got some good news for you. I said, what's that? He said, we're going to give you back $1,250 of your money. I said, what? He said, yep. He said, the guy that bid under you bid that amount. And he said, that's what we're going to sell it for. But we're going to keep the difference between that and $1,501. And you know what? About 2 weeks later, I got a check in the mail for $1,250. And I'm just telling you, folks, I was the happiest man in the world. I got this check back. I got most of my money back. And it all worked out in the end. But I can tell you this, and no one out there, I guarantee you watching this, can tell you they've ever owned a fire tower. But I owned a fire tower just like this one right here. That big, beautiful fire tower. I owned one of those. For 3 weeks, it was mine. It was my fire tower. And nobody out there watching this can say you ever owned a fire tower, but I can say it, folks. So there you go. That is my story of a fire tower. I did not consider the cost. I just went and bid on it, bought it, thought I could do it, but I found out that I couldn't. But anyways, it all worked out. It's just a cool story in my life. The owner of a fire tower. Thank you for watching me and you outside. I hope you subscribe to my channel. Got lots of good videos on here that you might want to watch. And thank you for being here. Another video is coming right around the corner.